Just a reminder to vote in this week's Locals poll, where you decide what deck I take to Locals every single week. Without any further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today we have the deck profile for the deck we took to Locals this week, being Red Eyes. We didn't have an official tournament because for some reason we've been having lower attendance the past couple weeks. I guess some people are just busy, but we got to play some rounds. We won a match 2-1 against Fluffle, and then we won against Battle and Boxer 1-0 because we only had time for one game. So yeah, the deck performed really well. So here's a cut to what it looks like on paper, then we'll get to the card by card. Okay, so starting off with the monsters, we of course have the 3 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragon. So, you know, can't have a Red Eyes deck without Red Eyes Black Dragon. So, yeah. Enough said. He's a ferocious dragon with a deadly attack. Enough said. Next, we also have 1 Dark Magician. This is the special one from Battle of Chaos I pulled. And then 1 Summon Skull, just for fusion purposes. For Dragoon and the Archfiend Black Skull Dragon, respectively. Next, we have 3 copies of Red Eyes Alternative Black Dragon. So, this is mainly just as an extender to help make Flare Metal. Or you can use it for the revival if you want to do some kind of burn. I actually did pull this off against one of the games against Frightfur, where I got the original Red Eyes back on the field with 4,800 attack, so that was kind of funny. Next, 1 copy of Red Eyes Soul. I prefer to dump this into the graveyard with something like Insight, and then revive it back with one of our trap cards in order to do lots of burn damage during my opponent's turn, because that's only once per duel. Next is, of course, 3 copies of Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. So this serves 2 purposes. It's a level 6. Actually, no, it serves 3 purposes. It's a level 6 for Meteor Black Comet Dragon. It is an extender in order to go into Flare Metal. And then in the graveyard, it searches Red Eyes Fusion. So, yeah. It's basically Magician Souls for Red Eyes. So, yeah, it's really, really good. Next, just 2 one-ofs here. We've got 1 Gearfried, the Red Eyes Iron Knight, and 1 Red Eyes Wyvern. So, basically, I run them at 1 because we can dump them into the graveyard with various cards, and then we can just revive them back if we want. So, I'm not really worried about seeing these in multiples. The main one you want in the graveyard is Wyvern anyway. For Gearfried, that one normally doesn't come up very much, so it's just an extra option if the opportunity presents itself. I'll kind of get to that more later. Next is 3 copies of Black Metal Dragon. So, of course, this is a... it becomes an equip spell to your dragon monster that gives it 600 attack, and then when it leaves the field, you get to search any Red Eyes card. So it's good for offensive power and recovery plays at the same time. And then finally, rounding out the monsters, we got 3 copies of the Black Stone of Legend. So this is one of your main starters besides Red Eyes Fusion itself. So you tribute this as cost in order to special summon a level 7 or lower Red Eyes monster from your deck. Mainly going to be the Red Eyes Black Dragon, so you can go into Flare Metal or use other such cards. And then while it's in the grave, you can shuffle 1 back in order to add it back to your hand, but you cannot activate the other effect that turn. Next, moving on to the spell cards, we of course have 3 copies of Red Eyes Insight. So this allows you to send a Red Eyes monster from hand or deck to the grave as cost in order to add a Red Eyes spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So, and I guess I'll just go ahead and cover the main one you're going to be adding off of that being 3 copies of Red Eyes Fusion. So this allows you to special summon a Red Eyes Fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand, field, or deck as material, but in exchange for that flexibility, you can't summon anything else that turn. So it's literally Red Eyes Fusion or bust. So, I mean, it's powerful for sure, but comes at a cost. So if your opponent has Ash, you're literally just screwed. Next is 3 copies of Inferno Fireblast. So this is kind of like a fusion aggro burn variant of the deck. Basically, you get one of your big Red Eyes Fusion monsters, and one thing I did forget to mention about Red Eyes Fusion is that the fusion monster's name is treated as a Red Eyes Black Dragon. And so Inferno Fireblast works directly with that to inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. The only drawback is that that monster then cannot attack that turn. So in terms of that, you know, it's possible to FTK your opponent. I actually did that once while playing online on Thursday while I was practicing for locals. I actually managed to FTK a Shiranui player because I went first. So I summoned Black Meteor, dealt 1200 by dumping Red Eyes, and then I had 2 of these in my opening hand, plus a Red Eyes Fusion. So then I just activated 2 of these and just FTK'd him. It was hilarious. Alright, next, going into our alternative fusion summoning methods, we have 2 copies of the Claw of Hermos and 1 Dragon's Mirror. So, Claw of Hermos allows us to access some of our equip utility fusion monsters. Then Dragon's Mirror allows us to use the graveyard as a resource just for alternative fusion summoning plays. Usually you're not really going to need the Dragon's Mirror, but it did come up one time while I was practicing on Thursday. More on that later. Next, 2 copies of Dragon Nails. So this is an equip spell. It gives your fusion monster an extra 600 attack, and it cannot be destroyed by card effects. And then, when it gets destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, this revives it and re-equips itself to the monster, with the condition that the equip spell is then banished when it leaves the field. So, literally, they have to kill your monster twice. So, whether that's something, you know, like a Black Meteor, or a Black Skull, or even something like a Red Eyes Flare Metal, they have to kill it twice, which may not be easy to do. So, or, excuse me, they have to kill it by battle twice. So, might not be easy to do. Next, going into the trap cards, 3 copies of Red Eye Spirit. So this is, of course, it's basically a Call of the Haunted for a Red Eyes monster. So this allows us to do things like Red Eye Soul, being able to, you know, potentially end our opponent's turn during their draw phase or their standby phase with damage potentially. Then also just being able to do things like summon back Dragoon if it gets kaiju'd or something. So that's nice. Next, a couple one-of traps. We've got 1 Red Eyes Burn and 1 Fanglet Chain. So I only have 1 of each of these because I would rather search these. Because if I'm going first, I'm going to try to summon Dragoon, which does not work with Chain because it has to target, and Dragoon cannot be targeted by card effects. So I try to use this one a little sparingly, but it is very useful when it comes up. Burn is basically just it's basically like a plan C or a plan D, whereas it's like, okay, I have this on the board, I'm close to game, I'm going to get this, you know, because I can search it with Insight, and then if they manage to out it, then I win the game. So yeah, it's just like I said, it's like plan C or plan D, but it's there. And then finally, the last trap card is 1 copy of Return of the Red Eyes. So I'm only running 1 of this because we already have to control a Red Eyes monster. and it can only revive normal monsters. So I figured I'd run 3 of the more flexible one and only 1 of the more restricted one. So that's going to be it for the 40 card main deck. So now let's go to the extra deck. So first, even though this is a fusion deck, I would be remiss to not run Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon. This is a decent play if you're going first and you can't get to Red Eye's fusion. Trying to end on this is a pretty decent play because it already can't be destroyed by card effects. In the first game against Fluffles, I actually ended on this plus Dragon Nails. Then I think I had a face down. So, you know, that did him a bunch of damage during his turn. And then he wasn't able to out it. And then I used Claw of Hermos for Dragon Sword to just end the game next turn. So, yeah, that was really funny. Alright, next going into the Hermos targets, we have 1 Rocket Hermos Cannon, 1 Goddess Bow, and 1 Red Eye's Black Dragon Sword. So, the cannon and the bow... Sorry, my puppy knocked the tripod. So, the bow and the cannon, they require a warrior monster, which is where the Red Eye's Gearfried comes in. And so, basically, what I would want to do is dump it to the graveyard with something like Insight if I want to go for this. I would dump it to the graveyard, revive it with Spirit, and then use Claw of Hermos on it to get either one of these. This one does Piercing, and also gives it 2 attacks and Piercing. This one negates the first effect that is activated during your opponent's battle phase, so this is good if you know they have back row or something that only triggers during the battle phase, and then lets you do a second attack. Black Dragon Sword, this is the main one you're going to summon off the Claw of Hermos just because it takes a dragon monster. And it... Oh, and also, the effects that these guys have to equip to another monster is a mandatory effect. So just be careful. So don't summon this if you don't have anything else on your side of the field, because then it will equip itself to one of your opponent's monsters, and that's a bad time. So, basically... This equips to a monster on the field. It gives it 1,000 attack, plus an extra 500 attack and defense for each dragon monster that's on the field and in the graveyards. So, this really gets it big. I used this to get the Flare Metal up to like, I think it was 6,300, I think. And then I just swung over as Fright for Tiger for game. Yeah, it was, yeah. Next is Red Eye Slash Dragon. So this is one I don't really use that often, but this is actually how you get Gearfried into the graveyard through Red Eye's Fusion, because it takes Red Eyes plus a warrior monster. And it protects against targeting, so I summoned this in the second game against Frightfur because, you know, I was holding back a little bit because, you know, obviously I wasn't going to summon Dragoon against a brand new... Or not brand new. He was returning from the game from like a 3 or 4 year break. So obviously I wasn't going to go Dragoon turn 1 on the guy. You know, because that's just not fair. That's not how you get people to return to the game. So I went Slash Dragon instead. And I used it to counter Fright for Kraken's target effect. So that was pretty nice. It was nice to actually be able to use it. And then, of course, we do have one of the infamous Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. I don't really think he needs much explanation. He can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. He gets a negate once per turn by discarding a card, and when he negates something and destroys it, he gets an extra 1,000 attack, and then, based on how many normal monsters you use to summon him, he can pop and burn. So, yeah, really good card there. Next, we have 3 copies of Meteor Black Comet Dragon. I almost said Red Eyes and Black Comet, but yeah, Meteor Black Comet Dragon. So when it's fusion summoned, you dump a Red Eyes monster from the hand or deck to inflict damage equal to half of its original attack. And then when this leaves the field, you get a normal monster back from your graveyard. So this is what I mentioned earlier. So I use this to inflict 1,200 damage by dumping an original Red Eyes. And then I had the 2 copies of Inferno Fire Blast in my hand, which was 7,000 damage, plus 12 is 8,200 FTK on that poor Shiranui player. And I felt kind of bad afterwards, too, because I also play Shiranui. So, like, I know the struggle. So, like, I kind of felt bad for him. Alright, next, 1 copy of First of the Dragons. This is exclusively for Dragon's Mirror. It takes 2 normal monsters, and it can't be destroyed by battle with an effect monster, and it is also unaffected by all monster effects. So, this is just a Dragon's Mirror target. Basically, if we absolutely need to, unless we're going to die. So this is kind of like a plan E, I guess. It's basically just trying to stall until we can get back into the game with a Red Eyes fusion. Alright, next, 2 copies of Archfiend Black Skull Dragon. So this is actually my favorite Red Eyes fusion monster. I just love the way it looks. And I actually really like the effect too. So basically, when it battles, your opponent can't activate anything until the end of the damage step. So this is really good for if your opponent has back row or effects on attack declaration. And then at the end of the battle phase, if it battled, you can target a Red Eyes normal monster in your graveyard, inflict damage equal to its attack in the graveyard, and then shuffle it into the deck. So this is a nice way to possibly facilitate, not really an OTK, because with Red Eyes Fusion you can only summon this, but I guess like a pseudo OTK, where you do almost all the damage in 1 turn. And then finally, for the last card, we have 1 5-headed dragon. Again, this is just as a Dragon's Mirror target. It's basically like Plan F. And I've only summoned this once in the entire time that I've been playing this deck since I first built it in like November or December. I've only summoned this guy once, and it was actually on Thursday when I was practicing for locals. A guy kaiju'd my Dragoon and then used Monster Reborn on it. And so then I baited Dragoon with Red Eyes Fusion, and since it negated the activation, I could still summon, so then I summoned this guy and beat over the Dragoon. So that was funny, but that's going to be it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. I know some people have been really looking forward to this deck profile. It's a fun deck for sure. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, vote in the locals poll, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.